listeners. I'm Ivan Franklin Rose, and this is the one on Burnout Syndrome. Now, with burnout, the brain goes into crisis mode, and you ask yourself, do I really want to be here? What are my options? And what can I do not to go into burnout mode? We will look at it from the perspective of different authors and world-recognized organizations. The first is the World Health Organization. Burnout is included in the 11th revision of the International Classification of Diseases, the ICD-11. This was enhanced from their old ICD-10 on burnout, so it's more detailed now. And they identify it as an occupational phenomenon, not classified as a medical condition. It is described in the chapter Factors Influencing Health Status or Contact with Health Services, which includes reasons for which people contact health services, but that are not classed as an illness or health condition. Burnout is defined as follows. It's a syndrome conceptualized as resulting from chronic workplace stress that has not been successfully managed. It is characterized by three dimensions: feelings of energy depletion or exhaustion, increased mental distance from one's job, or feelings of negativism or cynicism related to one's job, and reduced professional efficacy. Burnout refers specifically to phenomena in the occupational context and should not be applied to describe experiences in other areas of life. At least that's what we're working with today, just the work burnout syndrome. It's from the American Thoracic Society. They define burnout syndrome, actually defined in the 70s by psychologist Herbert Friedenberger as it related to doctors and nurses. They further define that it usually occurs in individuals without prior history of psychological or psychiatric disorders. That's good to know. BOS is triggered by a discrepancy between the expectations and ideals of the employee and actual requirements of their position. In the initial stages of BOS, individuals feel emotional stress and increasing job-related delusionment. Subsequently, they lose the ability to adapt to the work environment and display negative attitudes towards the job, their coworkers, and in his case, the doctor's case, patients. Ultimately, three classic BOS symptoms develop: exhaustion, depersonalization, and reduced personal accomplishment. Exhaustion is generally fatigue that can be related to devoting excessive time and effort to a task or project that is not perceived to be beneficial. For example, a feeling of exhaustion, particularly emotional exhaustion, may be caused by continuing to care for a patient who has a very poor chance of recovery. Depersonalization is a distant or indifferent attitude towards work. Depersonalization manifests as negative, callous, and cynical behaviors, or interacting with colleagues or patients in an impersonal manner. Depersonalization may be expressed as unprofessional comments directed towards coworkers, or in the case of doctors and nurses, blaming patients for their medical problems, or an inability to express empathy or grief when a patient dies. You can see how he first conceptualized this for that particular field, but it applies to all fields of work. Reduced personal accomplishment is a tendency to negatively evaluate the worth of one's work, feeling insufficient in regard to the ability to perform one's job, and in a generalized poor professional self-esteem. Individuals with BOS may also develop nonspecific symptoms, including feeling frustrated, angry, fearful, or anxious. They may also express an inability to feel happiness, joy, pleasure, or contentment. BOS can be associated with physical symptoms, including insomnia, muscle tension, headaches, and gastrointestinal problems. You can see how important this is. So let's look now at the Mayo Clinic's definition. They talk to job burnout is a special type of work-related stress, a state of physical or emotional exhaustion that also involves a sense of reduced accomplishment and loss of personal identity. Burnout isn't a medical diagnosis. Some experts think that other conditions, such as depression, are behind burnout. Researchers point out that individual factors such as personality traits and family life influence who experiences job burnout. Whatever the cause, job burnout can affect your physical and mental health. Consider how to know if you've got job burnout and what to do about it. Symptoms. Ask yourself, have you become cynical or critical at work? Do you drag yourself to work and have trouble getting started? Have you become irritable or impatient with coworkers, customers, or clients? Do you lack the energy to be consistently productive? Do you find it hard to concentrate? Do you lack satisfaction from your achievements? Do you feel disillusioned about your job? Are you using food, drugs, or alcohol to feel better or to simply not feel at all? Have your sleep habits changed? Are you troubled by unexplained headaches, stomach or bowel problems, or other physical complaints? If you answered yes to any of these questions, you might be experiencing job burnout. Consider talking to a doctor or mental health provider because these symptoms can also be related to health conditions such as depression. So let's look at the possible causes of job burnout according to the Mayo Clinic. 1, lack of control. An inability to influence decisions that affect your job, such as your schedule, assignments, or workload, could lead to job burnout. So could a lack of the resources you need to do your work. If you're a leader and people aren't listening, in that case, I suggest you look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which you can understand your workers better, or any other management booklet that helps you become a better manager. Because in this case, that will help people listen and might eradicate that particular part of burnout. Also, if you're not clear on your assignment or the workload, talk to the person who is over you just to get a clarification if they can give it to you. And try to be clear on what it is, because unclear job expectations is the next one. If you're unclear about the degree of authority you have or what your supervisor or others expect from you, you're not likely to feel comfortable at work. So get clear about it. Next is dysfunctional workplace dynamics. Perhaps you work with an office bully, or you feel undermined by colleagues, or your boss micromanages your work. This can contribute to job stress. Well, definitely. Extremes of activity. When a job is monotonous or chaotic, you need constant energy to remain focused, which can lead to fatigue or job burnout. Lack of social support. If you feel isolated at work and in your personal life, you might feel more stressed. Work-life imbalance is last on their list. If your work takes up so much time and effort that you don't have the energy to spend time with your family or friends, you might burn out more quickly. Let's look at job burnout risk factors. The following factors may contribute. You have a heavy workload and work long hours. You struggle with work-life balance. You work in a helpful profession, such as healthcare. You feel that you have little or no control over your work. Consequences of job burnout. Ignored or unaddressed job burnout can have significant consequences, including excessive stress, fatigue, insomnia, sadness, anger, or irritability, alcohol or substance misuse, heart disease, high blood pressure, type 2 diabetes, and vulnerability to illness. That's why we have this episode, because it's so important to understand if this is an issue with you or not, and you may not realize it. In their opinion, Mayo Clinic says handling job burnout can be to evaluate your options, discuss specific concerns with your supervisor. Maybe you can work together to change expectations or reach compromises or solutions. Try to set goals for what must get done and what can wait. Now, in evaluating your options, I have tremendous respect for my son, Brian. I have to share this with you. Brian, when he got his master's degree, he went to work for state of California as an auditor. And when he went in to visit the clients, it was with a heavy hand, because usually he was the deciding factor of whether they go to jail or not, if they've committed fraud or not, or if they just had to pay heavy penalties. He was unhappy about the way he was received when he went there, and he couldn't take it. It just was too much. He burned out quickly. It just wasn't the kind of job that he expected, and the way people treated him was just too much for him to handle at the time. So he left a high-paying job to work at a lower-paying job, at anything he could get. After not working at all for a couple of months, he started work for a pharmaceutical company as a temp for something like $16 to $18 an hour. And with a master's degree, that's not much. And after 3 months, they promised him there'll be some permanent work, and there wasn't. And so another 3 months go by, no permanent work. He's still temporary, working many hours, working overtime, doing anything he can to show them he's loyal and he's diligent. Finally, after 9 months, he had it. And he went and applied for jobs, and he got offered at that time jobs in the mid-60,000s, approaching 70,000. So he went to them and he said, I'm sorry, I've waited and nothing came up. And so I'm leaving. I have job offers. Here's my job offers. And, sorry it didn't work out. And they said, oh, we're sorry to see you go. We don't want to see you leave. Please, will you stay? We'll match it. We'll give you a $5,000 bonus over it for signing on with us full time. And so he forced them into a position to make a decision. So I'm proud of the way he acted to take action. In this case, we're talking about evaluating your options. His option was to go look for a job somewhere else, and it caused them to give him the raise that he wanted. In fact, a year later, he was expecting another raise, and he got offered jobs in the 75, 80,000 range. He went looking a year later and went back to them, and again, they matched it and gave him another signing bonus. So don't be afraid to look for options in your job. Don't be afraid to evaluate anything that'll help you from not continuing to be burned out. Seek support is the next one. Whether you reach out to coworkers, friends, or loved ones, support and collaboration might help you cope. If you have access to an employee assistance program, take advantage of relevant services they offer. Try a relaxing activity. Explore programs that can help with stress, such as yoga, meditation, or Tai Chi. Get some exercise. Regular physical activity can help you better deal with stress. It can also take your mind off work. Get some sleep. That's very important. We do a session on sleep. You should definitely listen to that one. Sleep restores well-being and helps protect your health. Mindfulness, and we did one on mindfulness as well. Mindfulness is the act of focusing on your breath flow and being intensely aware of what you're sensing and feeling at every moment, without interpretation or judgment. In a job setting, the practice involves facing situations with openness and patience and without judgment. Keep an open mind as you consider the options. Try not to let a demanding, unrewarding job undermine your health. Okay. Now, I want to go to ways in which burnout syndrome can be determined and measured. There are two measurements. One is the UWES, which is the Utrecht Work Engagement Scale. And the second is the Maslach Burnout Inventory, or the MBI. That was created by Dr. Christine Maslach. We'll talk more about her in a moment. But the MBI-HS is a 22-item self-report questionnaire that consists of 3 independently scored dimensions: emotional exhaustion, depersonalization, and lack of personal accomplishments, we were talking about a minute ago. The questions on the MBI-HS classify feelings related to an individual's work environment on a 7-point Likert scale. The emotional exhaustion scale includes 9 items and identifies individuals who are emotionally exhausted or who feel overextended at work. The depersonalization scale includes 5 items and identifies those who have an impersonal response to patients, in this case, that they are taken care of, and a personal accomplishment scale includes 8 items and assesses a lack of accomplishment and success related to work. Even though, again, this was originally created in the 70s, for the purpose for doctors and nurses, it applies to everyone in their work at this time, and it's being identified by the WHO as such. All right, so Christine Maslach, the doctor who created this scale, talks about risk factors in her case. Both individual and organizational risk factors are associated with an increased susceptibility to BOS. Individual risk factors: having poor self-esteem, maladaptive coping mechanisms, younger adults with an idealistic worldview, unrealistically high expectations, having financial issues. Those are all individual ones. Organizational risk factors: heavy workload, conflicts with coworkers, diminished resources, lack of control or input, effort-reward imbalance, where you don't get enough reward for the effort you're putting in, understaffing, and rapid institutional changes. So those are some of hers. I want to read you more of her that I have on here. So let's look at, she identifies, Christine Maslock outlined 6 organizational risk factors: workload, control, reward, community, fairness, and values. Let's go into detail here. They're not necessarily causes for burnout for everyone. Our own perception of these factors plays a role in what can cause burnout, but here's a description of each and what to watch out for in these potential causes of job burnout. Workload. The work you're responsible for, along with access to the resources and support you need to meet those goals, contributes to your total workload. If you tend towards isolation, people-pleasing, or perfectionism, this may make a demanding workload feel impossible. Control. Do you feel like you have to say in the type of work that you do and how you do it? Do you feel like you have a say in it, is what we're saying. Do you feel like you're consistently trying to keep up with a moving target, or don't feel able to change or direct any part of your work? You're more likely to feel burnout in that case. The ability to set and maintain effective boundaries is closely related to this work factor, as many feel that they can't say no to requests. Now, reward. There's a saying, you get what you pay for. In order to sustainably produce anything of quality, you need to spend more. In business, you may need to invest more in your people to ensure that they keep performing at their best. Bonuses and promotions are nice, but opportunities for growth, new challenges, visibility, or simply positive feedback can also help fill their cups. Community. In the book Burnout Fix, Dr. Jacinta Jimenez details the importance of a psychologically safe environment. That is, one that empowers employees to share themselves and their ideas without fear of negative consequences. If you feel supported, connected, and unafraid to show up authentically at work, you are far less likely to experience burnout. Now, in the book Burnout Fix, I think this is something that this will help people that want to know more about burnout and its effect on your work ability and your health. Fairness. Environments where leaders play favorites, fail to set clear expectations across the board, and reward or punish employees inconsistently are breeding grounds for burnout. Unfortunately, many people have trouble advocating for fairness, in part because they feel alone or being treated unfairly, especially when another factor like control or community is also lacking. Values. Work that doesn't align with your values will be draining and feel that way. This could happen on a micro level, like feeling as if you can't be honest with your colleagues or constantly having to cut corners to meet unrealistic budgets. On a macro level, working with a company whose mission doesn't align with your own. According to Jane Jackson, coach and author of Navigating Career Crossroads, the top reasons people leave their jobs are all linked to a conflict in values. So this is from Christine Maslock, and I think that you'll find that important. Next, let's talk about how many stages of burnout symptoms are there. In the case of an article written by a group called Miller and Smith on the 5 phases of symptomatic burnout, in which burnout gradually develops over time, they identify these stages. The honeymoon phase is the first few months of most people's employment, during which they have the energy to work hard and try to fit in with the company and work environment. It is the phase where a person can handle pressure from work. The awakening phase is when the person starts to feel the expectations of work and may feel disappointed when they discover they cannot handle the work in the organization. There is an imbalance in the workplace between workload, compensation, and recognition, which leads to employees feeling guilty about their work assignment and being unable to manage. The brownout phase is the first stage of burnout, actual burnout, where it's characterized by irritability, withdrawal from colleagues, grievances, negative workplace criticism, and the possibility of developing an alcohol addiction. Full-scale burnout is next. The characteristics of this stage are extreme exhaustion from work, feelings of discouragement, hopelessness, loss of confidence, the sense of failure to manage tasks, performing poorly at work, or lack of enthusiasm for your job. And finally, number 5 is the Phoenix phenomenon. And this is individuals suffering from burnout syndrome have access to rest, stress management, or medical therapy to help them find a solution to the problem, including modifying their way of thinking positively and balancing work and life. And they will be able to return to work and life with renewed energy. And this is the positive one. That's number 5. I love that stage. It's a hope for everybody. You can get out of burnout syndrome. It just may take a long road to get there, but you can do it. Let's talk about stress versus burnout. What's the difference? All right, so stress characterized by overengagement, burnout characterized by disengagement. This is by helpguide.org. Next, stress is emotions being emotions being overreactive. In burnout, emotions are blunted. In stress, produces urgency and hyperactivity. In burnout, produces helplessness and hopelessness. Stress is a loss of energy. Burnout, a loss of motivation, ideals, and hope. Stress leads to anxiety disorders. Burnout leads to detachment and depression. Stress leads to primary damage being physical, and burnout, primary damage is emotional. Stress may kill you prematurely. Burnout may make life seem not worthy of living. And in some cases causes people to want to commit suicide. So you got to be careful with burnout. If you have no reason to get up in the morning, that can be very dangerous. With helpguide.org, they say the causes of burnout in their case often stem from your job, but anyone who feels overworked and undervalued is at risk for burnout, from the hardworking office worker who hasn't had a vacation in years to the frazzled stay-at-home mom tending the kids' housework and an aging parent. So this is important because this is the first article that actually realizes that a stay-at-home mom doing the job of being a mother, even though it's a job of love, can actually experience burnout. So this was critical when I read this. I loved hearing that someone recognized that. But burnout is not caused solely by stressful work and too many responsibilities. Other factors contribute to burnout, including your lifestyle and personality traits. In fact, what you do in your downtime and how you look at the world can play just as big a role in causing overwhelming stress as work or home demands. Whether you recognize the warning signs of impending burnout or you're already past the breaking point, trying to push through the exhaustion and continuing as you have been will only cause further emotional and physical damage. Now is the time to pause and change direction by learning how you can help yourself overcome burnout and feel healthy and positive again. They suggest dealing with burnout requires the 3R approach. 1, recognize, watch for the warning signs of burnout. Reverse, undo the damage by seeking support and managing stress. And the third R is resilience. Build your resilience to stress by taking care of your physical and emotional health. The following tips for preventing or dealing with burnout can help you cope with symptoms and regain your energy, focus, and sense of well-being. Dealing with burnout, tip 1, turn to other people. When you're burned out, problems seem insurmountable. Everything looks bleak, and it's difficult to muster up the energy to care, let alone take action to help yourself. But you have a lot more control over stress than you may think. There are positive steps you can take to deal with overwhelming stress and get your life back into balance. One of the most effective is to reach out to others. Social contact is nature's antidote to stress, and talking face-to-face with a good listener is one of the fastest ways to calm your nervous system and relieve stress. The person you talk to doesn't have to be able to fix your stressors. They just have to be a good listener, someone who will listen attentively without becoming distracted or expressing judgment. So this is something we talked about in a podcast earlier, referring to the book by Dr. Gray and his wife, which was Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, and the next book, What Your Mother Didn't Tell You, What Your Father Didn't Know, where they talk about men normally want to be Mr. Fix-It, they call it, where they want to fix people's problems, and I've been guilty of this too. We all want to be the savior of someone else's situation, so when they just want to vent and be able to talk to someone and let go of what's going on with them. Sometimes in this book, they describe the characteristic of a Mr. Fix-It personality that wants to just solve everything. So sometimes just listen. Just be the person and the partner, the friend that just listens to what's going on in somebody else's life without expressing judgment or coming up with solutions. Reach out to those closest to you, such as your partner, your family, your friends. Opening up won't make you a burden to others. In fact, most friends and loved ones would be flattered that you trusted them enough to confide in them, and will only strengthen your friendship. Try not to think about what's burning you out, and make the time you spend with loved ones positive and enjoyable. Be more sociable with your coworkers. Developing friendships with people you work with can help buffer you from job burnout. When you take a break, for example, instead of directing your attention to your smartphone, try engaging with your colleagues. Or schedule social events together after work. And networking events, which we talked about before, is really a good way to get out and forget about work and socialize with people as well and make new friends. Limit your contact with negative people. This is so important. Hanging out with negative-minded people who do nothing but complain will only drag down your mood and outlook. If you have to work with a negative person, try to limit the amount of time you spend together. It's so important to recognize when someone's attitude is always negative. And please don't expose yourself to that if you can at all avoid it. We can still love a person even though we don't appreciate the negative attitude. We can love them for other things, but you don't have to always hang around and be exposed to that attitude. Connect with a cause or community group that is personally meaningful to you. Joining a religious, social, or support group can give you a place to talk to like-minded people and how to deal with daily stress and how to make new friends. If your line of work has a professional association, you can attend meetings and interact with others coping with the same workplace demands as you. Because I understand it, they recognize it. Find new friends. If you don't feel that you have anyone to turn to, it's never too late to build new friendships and expand your social network. We refer to our podcast on making friends and networking. I think you'll find that helpful. The power of giving. Being helpful to others delivers immense pleasure and can help significantly reduce stress as well as broaden your social circle. While it's important not to take on too much when you're facing overwhelming stress, helping others doesn't have to involve a lot of time or effort. Even small things like a kind word or friendly smile can make you feel better and help lower stress for both for you and the other person. The next tip is reframe the way you look at work. Whether you have a job that leaves you rushed off your feet or one that is monotonous and unfilling, the most effective way to combat job burnout is to quit and find a job you love instead. Of course, for many of us, changing job or career is far from being a practical solution. We're grateful just to have work that pays the bills. Whatever your situation, though, there are still steps you can take to improve your state of mind. Try to find some value in your work, even if in some mundane jobs, you can often focus on how your role helps others, for example, or provides a much-needed product or service. Focus on aspects of the job that you do enjoy, even if it's just chatting with your coworkers at lunch. Changing your attitude towards your job can help you regain a sense of purpose and control. Find balance in your life. If you hate your job, look for meaning and satisfaction elsewhere in your life, in your family, friends, hobbies, or volunteer work. Focus on the parts of your life that bring you joy. My friend Alan runs a very successful company, but he tends to get overwhelmed, and so what he does on Saturdays is he feeds the homeless. Every Saturday, I know for 10, 15 years at least, he's down in Fort Lauderdale feeding the homeless, and that's how he feels to give it back and take his mind off work. Find some volunteer work that you can do to help people. Make friends at work. Having strong ties in a workplace can help reduce monotony and counter the effects of burnout. Having friends to chat and joke with during a day can help relieve stress from an unfulfilling or demanding job, improve your job performance, or simply get you through a rough day, especially when they know what you're going through, most likely. And finally, take time off. If burnout seems inevitable, try to take a complete break from work. Go on vacation. Use up your sick days. Ask for temporary leave of absence. Take a mental health day. My daughter is a teacher in the Chicago area, and she's been a teacher for a long time and has wonderful 8th grade classes and 7th grade classes. And just this past week, she had one class. It's the first time it happened in so long that was unruly and just couldn't manage. And they wouldn't listen to her. And this is unusual. My daughter's a sweetheart, and everybody loves her. And she's a music teacher and a choir director. So she didn't know what to do. And finally, the principal had to talk to the students. It just got out of hand. This was a new class for her, not her regular student load. And so finally, she told the principal, I'm so proud of her for this. She said to the principal, I need a mental health day. I've got to take a day off. So they found a substitute and they gave her a day off. And today, she is taking a mental health day. So good for you, Jennifer. And finally, reevaluate your priorities. Reevaluate what's important to you and understand what you need to do to move forward with your life in a healthy atmosphere and in a healthy way. Now, I'd like to end with something about a friend of mine who offers a service to help people. You can look her up. Ariel does, if you Google executive health coaching with Ariel, I'm going to tell you a little bit about her, and then I'm going to quote what happened to her. Ariel, her last name is Svilagbi. It's so I can spell it right. It's hard to pronounce. It's Szilagyi. Ariel, Ariel. She's on Instagram. Wonderful coach. She's the founder of Executive Health Coaching Practice based in San Francisco. It specializes in holistic prevention and reversal of burnout. Her unique integrative approach blends science-based strategies across multiple disciplines to identify and address the psychological and physical root causes of burnout. She's a nationally recognized author and speaker, functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner, and an NSCA certified personal trainer, and holds a BA in psychology from UC Santa Barbara. Worked at least 10 years with high-end professionals. So what I want to talk about first is how she felt, because you can relate to this maybe. She says, for most of her life, I thought the formula for happiness was just to work as hard as possible, indefinitely. Relaxing felt stressful to me. I saw anything that wasn't productive, she says, as a waste of time. Depletion was my normal, and I felt lazy if I wasn't feeling exhausted. I felt selfish and guilty taking time for myself. I held myself to a different, higher standard than other people. I found myself feeling angry and judgy of others if I saw them resting when they weren't depleted. My life was chaotic and cluttered, but at the same time, I felt like I was never doing enough. I was the perfect product of what everyone else wanted me to be, and I was utterly miserable. So, the path to recovering from and staying out of burnout for good is a long, winding, and at times extremely arduous project, she says. And she provides help for this. If you need coaching and you go to her website, if you Google Executive Health Coaching with Ariel, it'll come up. Her services help you get crystal clear on who you are and what you value, recalibrate your life's path in accordance with your chosen identity and core values, uncover and rewrite the unconscious beliefs that fuel the behaviors that drive burnout, learn how to stop living your life by other people's rules and redefine success on your own terms, regain the energy, drive, and passion you know and you've always had but had trouble accessing lately, develop sustainable, healthy lifestyle habits with the guidance of a certified personal trainer and functional nutritional practitioner that are critical in supporting you on your journey to living your most fulfilling life, even on your most demanding days. Learn how to take care of yourself in ways that feel energizing rather than draining. Find freedom from exhaustion, constant stress, and overwhelm without taking unrealistic amounts of time off or having to resign yourself to doing or being less. And lastly, implement systems that help you improve the quality and efficiency of your work while having more time and energy for the things that matter. So if you need some professional help, go see either my friend Ariel. You can Google against Executive Health Coaching with Ariel. She has a wonderful program. Or you can find any health professional that deals with this, that specializes in burnout if you research it online, but get some help. It is important to have help from someone that can get you through it if you can't get it through yourself. Have a happy life. That's all I wish for you. And to do that, you have to analyze where you are and have a hard look at what's going on in your life. And think positively. Try to find some reason to wake up happy in the morning. Even if you're going to a job you hate, if you wake up with a smile, at least you're starting the day off with one moment of happiness and peace. Find a picture you like. Find something. Go on my Instagram, bocaceo.com, or not BocaCEO rather, on Instagram, not .com, and look at the pictures under my profile in the circles. I've got 300 pictures of sunrises, sunsets. Find some reason to start your day happy. And then maybe going into work, you look at life a little differently, and you go with an attitude of maybe, hopefully, finding something good about what you're doing, finding some peace about what you're doing. But that's the only tip I can give you, is follow some of these courses of action that we talked about today and start the day at least with a positive, happy attitude. That's all I can wish for you, and have a wonderful day. Until next time, listeners, goodbye.